Welcome to Divorce, Dating, and Empowered Living with your host, Rosalind Sedaka. Join Rosalind each week on a journey toward overcoming life's many challenges to achieve peace, empowerment, and positive transformation. It's time to relax, unwind, and transform your life with Rosalind Sedaka.
Hello, everyone. This is Rosalind Sedaka, divorce and parenting coach and founder of the Child-Centered Divorce Network, and you are listening to WGSN-DB, the Going Solo Network, and the show is Divorce, Dating, and Empowered Living. I'm so glad you've chosen to join us today, and I want to tell you that if you are in any area of the world of divorce and dating after divorce, and this is a useful show for you, especially if you happen to have children who are caught in the mix, because we're going to cover a number of questions that I get asked frequently, and I'm going to give you some helpful advice to make the process smoother and easier for you if you transition either through your divorce or into dating after divorce, and if you're already dating, into an arena where you're making better, wiser choices for your own well-being as well as on behalf of your children. So let's get started and see if we could answer some important questions. A question that I get very frequently is it okay to date when you're separated, or should you wait until you're legally divorced? And for some people, that's a very important question. For others, it's not as important, and it depends a lot on your circumstances, the level of dispute and conflict in your marriage situation, whether both you and your soon-to-be ex-spouse are on good terms, or whether you're going to complicate matters dramatically if you do start dating beforehand. It also has to do with your own moral code and ethics and a lot of other things. But my overall advice is that it's always better to take some time after a divorce to prepare yourself before you start to date. So it's nice to take a window of quietness where you could be a little more contemplative and introspective and really think about who you are, who you want to be following your divorce, and who you want to attract into your life. Because very often, the biggest mistakes that I find with people who are separated or divorced is that they end up attracting into their lives someone with a different face, but basically the same person again and again, because they haven't looked at the answers to the questions that you need about why did I choose who I chose, what lessons did I learn from my past relationship, from my marriage, before the divorce, and how am I going to behave differently, and who am I going to look for differently after the divorce? If you don't make some clear distinctions, if you don't understand your level of responsibility for why the relationship went sour, it's not always 100% about the other party. And if you don't take responsibility for why you chose that person to begin with, and what value did you get from this relationship? Were there some good lessons that are going to help you transform your life in a better direction? What things are you going to do differently? How are you going to choose partners? What qualities and attributes are you going to make sure that you bring into your life? And what are you going to avoid like the plague, because you understand that people with those attributes are dangerous for you? All of that is very important so that you feel clear and complete regarding your divorce and also regarding your relationships in general before you step out into the arena of starting over again. Dating too soon or dating before you've made the inner transformations is going to be futile, because it's not about finding someone new to date. It's about giving yourself the opportunity to create a happier, more successful future. Isn't that the case? And to do that, you have to do things right. You have to do things better. You have to do things smarter. You have to make better choices. And you have to know who and what you're looking for. So learning those lessons is really important. And also taking care of issues such as anger and resentment and hatred that you may have towards your ex. Because if you go into a new relationship and you're filled with those negative emotions, it muddies the waters in creating a happy, healthy new relationship ahead with someone new. It's almost like you're facing forward with your arms stretched out toward this wonderful new person you met who excites you so much and who you really feel is going to be a great future partner for you, but your head is facing backwards. You're looking behind your shoulders and you're looking back at your ex and you're still entwined with them emotionally, entwined in hating them and resenting them and wanting to hurt them. And that cannot lead to a healthy future ahead. So my advice is to stop and do the inner work first before getting out into the dating world, whether you're legally divorced or not. Take the time to do the work you need to do. And especially if you're a parent, things are much more complicated. And that brings us to the second question. Very often I get asked, how long should I wait before introducing dates to my children? Again, this depends on a multitude of factors, especially different ages of different children in your family. But there's more important factors than just the age of your children. And that is that you don't want to be introducing your kids to a rotating pool of partners who come and go. And sometimes we fall madly in love with someone, and then 3 months later we say, oh, my God, this was a mistake, and we drop them and we move on, and that's what dating is about. But children can be very hurt when they're exposed to too many partners because they get an erroneous feeling about what relationships are about when partners come and partners go. Sometimes they get very attached to a partner, and this person is great, and they love that mom or dad are dating this person, and they're becoming friends. They have a great time with them, and then one day that person is out of their life. Especially for children who've gone through a divorce with their parents, this can be heartbreaking to connect with another adult on an emotional level and then find out they're gone again. So my advice and the advice of most professionals in the mental health world is for you to be very, you should be very calm and quiet and wakeful before you introduce your children to dating partners. Be cautious and take it very slowly. So you don't want to really bring your children into a relationship level of meeting them until you get a very firm feeling that this may be the one. This is someone who you're sincerely involved in. So that may mean that you're dating them for 6 months. It could mean you're dating them for a year. It just depends. But you want someone who you feel is a keeper. And then you don't want to commit to anyone before you do introduce them to the children, because the children, if you have children, that plays a huge part in the relationship that you're going to have with any future partner. And I want you to be very, very clear and cautious about bringing someone into your children's lives who may or may not be a good fit for them. No matter how much you may love someone or how passionate you are about the sexual chemistry and how good it feels to be with that person, if your children hate that person or if they don't treat your children with the love and respect that they deserve, then that is not fair to your kids. And I don't suggest pursuing a relationship with someone who isn't a good fit. So you do want to introduce a partner who you feel is a really serious love partner for you, and take it very, very slowly. That means going on a quick lunch together in a restaurant for an hour, or having a picnic one afternoon, or inviting that partner over for dinner at the house, or going to a movie or a zoo for a few hours together as a family unit, and slowly spend time, and then listen to what your children say. Take the time to ask them questions about what they thought, what they liked, and what confused them and listen to what they say. Because sometimes we are so enamored and so head over heels in love with someone that we don't want to listen, we don't want to hear, we don't want to get the objective feedback that our kids may have. And sometimes that feedback is there's actually wisdom there. Other times, kids are feeling very jealous or protective, and they don't want mom or dad to like someone else other than their biological parent, and so they may act out and create a lot of conflict for you and be very resistant to a new partner. So it may be a slow process, and sometimes you have to take it very slowly and incrementally so that the kids get to realize that this new person is not going to be a threat to them in their life, and that mom and dad are not going to stop loving them because they fall in love with another partner. It's a very frightening thing for children to see mom or dad in love with another person. They've already found their other biological parent rejected by their mom and dad from the divorce, and now they can feel rejected when you are madly in love with someone else. So you have to make sure that you separate and share with your children that your love for your children will never, ever change, and that's consistent and that's forever, no matter what. And that having a love, romantic love for another person is different than the love that you have for them. And they're not measurable, they're not the same, and they never have to worry about losing you or losing your love. This is a very significant point that you need to make, and you have to take it as slowly as you need to for the sake of the children. And, of course, sometimes you're dealing with blended families where your new partner comes with children who have to meet your children, and you have to meet them, and they have to accept you, and your kids have to accept your partner. It can be very, very complex and convoluted, and it can work successfully, and it cannot work successfully, and that depends on a multitude of qualities and factors, but I certainly suggest getting the help of coaches, mental health counselors, special groups that are devoted to blended families, and other professionals who can walk you through this minefield of complicated emotions and help you get the relationships untangled in the smoothest, best way. When it works well, it's fabulous. When it doesn't work well, it can be hell. And we certainly want to make sure that you avoid the health side of any relationship situations. We're going to take a brief break now. This is Rosalind Sadaka with WGSN-DB, the Going Solo Network. The show is Divorce, Dating, and Empowered Living, and we'll be right back.
You're listening to WGSN-DB, Going Solo Network, Singles Talk Radio channel, where we take a lighthearted and candid approach to discussions on the journey of relationship loss, divorce, parenting, being single, relationships building, dating, and yes, sex. Join our listeners and begin living your best life.
Hello, everyone. This is Rosalind Sadaka, founder of the Child-Centered Divorce Network, divorce and dating coach, and parenting coach. And I want to talk to you today about answers to questions that I get asked so often on the dating side of things and on the divorce side of things and on the parenting side of the equation. And we're trying to find a mix of solutions that'll help make your life better. And you're listening to Divorce, Dating, and Empowered Living. So let's tackle another question together. And a question that I get often is, on holidays, should you make an effort to try to spend it with your ex to create a family holiday kind of atmosphere for your child? This is a tough question because in some cases that will never work because mom and dad can never be in the same room together with the kids for very long without tension and conflict and sparks flying. And if that happens to be the case for you, and you know whether it is, then no, you want to avoid being in situations like that. I highly recommend that you avoid ever letting yourself be in such high conflict situation where your kids can't have you together. It is much smarter and wiser and more considerate to the children that you both love for you to be able to spend a few hours at special times, such as holidays, such as birthdays, such as special events, sporting events, and activities for your children, and graduations, and all the wonderful times that families should be together. So it's a very happy experience for children of divorce to be able to be with mom and dad at special times, and I highly suggest that you try to create spending family time together whenever possible. And then they have the normal time when they're with you alone and separate, and then they know that there are other times when it's family time together, and we can still enjoy each other as a family. And I even know divorced families who get together for vacations and spend 4 or 5 days together, and it works out well if you have the mindset that you're going to make it work out well. So think about it and remember that the two parents are there for your children. You're not there to love one another. You're there to be the best parents for your children at all times, and your children will so appreciate seeing mom and dad just being able to be at peace together, to respect one another, to have some kind words between each other. And most important to keep in mind is that you are modeling behavior that your kids will emulate in their own lives. So when they see you behaving in a mature, responsible way, they're much more likely to get that message about adults behaving in ways where they can be responsible and mature for the sake of other people they love, rather than going to your lowest common denominator and showing them how you react like children and how you can create conflict unnecessarily. So try to be the role model that you can be proud of and that your kids are proud of. And give your children the gift of peace and harmony when you and your ex are together, and especially during the holiday season. That's such a gift for them. And try to make it as often as possible, because your children will thank you. It really is something that your children remember, and it just shows them the way to create peace and harmony despite disagreements with other people in relationships. A very important message for them. And related to that, there's another question that comes around often to me, and that question is, if you had a good relationship with your ex's family, should you try to stay in touch? And that's a really good question and an important question. And my answer is yes. You are only divorcing your ex, your former spouse. You're not divorcing your children's grandparents, aunts, uncles, and cousins. And there's no law that says you have to stop interacting with these other people who may have been in your life for years and years before, and especially if you have children who care about them. So the more you can continue your life routines as close to normal as possible, the better it is for everyone in the family, and the easier the transition for your children right after divorce and in the years following the divorce. The more you can keep routines the same for your children, the easier the entire divorce transition is. And so having access to grandparents, aunts and uncles, parties and occasions and events on the other side of the family and all of that, when that continues, it means that life is going on in the most normal way for us. When that suddenly and abruptly stops and suddenly those other people become the enemy, the bad guys, and your kids aren't allowed to call them or speak to them or love them, well, that's hurtful. That's painful for the kids because they're innocent victims. They didn't choose this in any way. Why should you be inflicting that on them? So you want to make every effort to maintain those with extended family on both sides. And your children will really appreciate that and thank you. I promise you that. So let's talk about another question that comes along to me, and that is, how long does it take after you're divorced to start considering getting remarried? Now, there's a loaded question because we earlier spoke about starting to date and how challenging that transition can be. So if you're considering remarrying, chances are that means you've already found a partner that may even be the reason why the divorce is taking place. Some people are eagerly rushing into remarrying someone new, and we want to really stress slowing down, taking your time, and making sure you're making the right decision this next time around. Second marriages statistically have higher divorce rates than first marriages. First marriages, the divorce rate is usually between 40 to 50%, and in second marriages it's between 60 and 70%. Third marriages, it's even higher. So, and that's because too many people don't learn from their first marriages and the experiences and the errors they made first time around, as I've mentioned previously. So you need to really take your time in exploring the lessons and the gifts from your divorce, as we talked about earlier. And I suggest seeing a counselor or join a support group to get additional outside insights, because what happens when you've had an affair and then you think you're ready to marry a new person who's wonderful and everything you've wanted and just looks like a big ice cream cone with whipped cream on top. The problem is, if you haven't been living with that person in the day-to-day routine of being a family and work and sickness and financial challenges and all the other things that just happen in daily life, then you don't have a realistic perspective about this person. You've been on a honeymoon. You've been sneaking around, having an affair, or dating someone briefly, and everything is looking rosy, but you haven't really had the time to find out who this person is and whether you have the foundation and the support system you need to become a relationship, a solid relationship in the future. So stop and take your time. I'm not saying you shouldn't consider this relationship if you feel you found someone you want to marry, but don't run into it. Don't run into it before you've really looked at it from your children's perspective and from your own perspective. So enjoy the dating process, take your time, and when you feel you've sincerely let go of the baggage from the past, only then can you start another new chapter in your life with another new relationship. And that's a totally different time. So be cautious, beware, and make a list of the lessons you've learned from your other relationship and from your divorce, and look at those lessons and make sure that those lessons aren't going to be repeated in the wrong way in this new relationship that you're so eager to remarry into. A word of caution is very important at this point, because you don't want to be making a similar mistake again and again. So those are a few of many, many questions that I regularly get from clients, and you can send me questions that you may have as well, and we can talk about them in coaching sessions. You can reach me at rosalindwrites@gmail.com. That's ROSALINDWRITES@gmail.com. And you could learn more about me at the Child-Centered Divorce Network, which is childcentereddivorce.com, and at womendatingafter40.com. That's 40, womendatingafter40.com, as well as womendatingrescue.com and mensdatingformula.com. That's mensdatingformula.com. All of those websites give you information about divorce or dating and being single and creating healthy relationships and moving ahead in the best possible way towards your best possible future. And that's what I wish for you. So you've been listening to Rosalind Sadaka, divorce and dating relationship coach, expert, and mentor on WGSN-DB, the Going Solo Network. Our show is Divorce, Dating, and Empowered Living, and I invite you to join us again because we always have interesting topics, guests, and opinions that'll help you transition in your life in the best possible direction. Thanks for listening. We'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.